What's up, guys? We are back with another Hail Caesar faction review here. Today we are covering an awesome army because it's the army we mainly play, and that is Alexandrian Macedonians. So again, late 4th century, we're moving our way through the timeline. So obviously Alexander the Great, Granicus, Issus, Siegentire, look up anything Alexandria, or sorry, not Alexandria, Alexander related, Macedon, Philip II even, which this list kind of can represent still, but yeah. So what does this list really entail then? So it's going to be a mainly infantry-based list, but again, this is really one of the best sort of combined arms lists that we get for this time period. So that's why they were so successful as well. So infantry has to be at least half the army, and that does not include skirmishers, as is normal. Cavalry can also be up to half the army, though, so two very strong elements, especially in this list. Of that infantry, though, at least a quarter of it has to be, again, non-skirmisher, but they have to be pike-armed phalanx of one kind or another. You do even get a little bit of artillery. We haven't seen much of that so far, but basically one of each type up to 10%. And then the typical division division here, like the division organization, I should say. Sorry, losing my train of thought there. But also here, a little sub note: if the Hetairoid companion guard is fielded, then they must form part of the general's division, which makes sense. The companions, and then skirmishers 50%. Per division, 50% of infantry. So keep that in mind there. And again, it's a really great list that can do a lot of stuff, as we'll see. So we'll flip this bad boy over again. It's a pretty long list, so there's a ton of options here. But we start off with what is basically the typical infantry unit, the phalangites. Probably not pronouncing that 100% right, but we're calling them phalangites. Heavy infantry with pikes, again, pretty much typical heavy infantry stat line, and they have the phalanx rule. Again, it's going to be fairly expensive as a sort of core unit, but 32 points a pop there. We can upgrade up to half of them to veteran too, which makes them drilled for another 3 points. And then we get one unit, so you might as well go with it because it's super like elite, as in, you know, it's got drilled, phalanx, stubborn, and elite, and that is for 9 points a unit. So that's going to form a bulk of your infantry right there, because they're just solid, great infantry with, again, special rules on tap, basically. You can also have mercenary hoplites. They're not going to be quite as good, but they are all elite and phalanx and still at 35 points, but still, you know, a cut above a generic unit that didn't have any kind of special rules. So a good one to keep in mind there. Then we get into a little bit of the light infantry, and Macedon is again, got a good chunk of pretty much all types of units. So there's the peltasts with spears and javelins, again, as typical light infantry stats there at 20 points a pop. We could make them one unit of them Thracians with the double-handed Rumphia, or Phaya, if I'm pronouncing that right, which bumps up their clash a little bit, changes the short-ranged, but they are tough fighters, which is kind of interesting there. And then we could basically reduce that stuff to make them small units as well, with the corresponding stat changes there, but also a 7-point discount. Then we could go skirmishers with javelins as small units specifically, and then there's the options there. And again, we could go with slings for an extra upgrade. We could make that one slinger unit Rhodians, and that gives them marksmen, which is really solid. And then we could go to bows instead of javelins, also for just the one unit, which is kind of disappointing. I wish they would have just a little bit more bow access, but again, for that upgrade across the board there to give you some more long range firepower. And one unit, which is really it's kind of annoying, like, so one unit, which is again the only unit we could field, but we could upgrade them to Cretans. So basically the cream of the crop for archers, but that's another way to get marksmen. So definitely worth considering, because it's really not many points, but just having some elite shooting is great too. And then we get into basically like the hammer of the list here. Companion cavalry with spears, again, very solid. 9 on the clash, drops off though, so you do gotta like do some solid damage initially. They're not gonna last forever. 5 up save, and they can be upgraded with lances, as we see here too, which changes the stats around just slightly. But they start off with drilled and elite, and the lance ones also are that, but the 3-point upgrade. But then one unit of the companions can be upgraded to the Hetairoid, and no matter how they're armed, but then they get drilled, elite, tough fighters, and stubborn for 3 points, which is pretty damn awesome for a cavalry unit. Again, they don't have like the heavy cavalry like morale save here, but these guys are gonna definitely punch above their weight. But then we also have Thessalian medium cavalry with spears. So again, cheaper option. They're still drilled, which is really great. And they can also be switched over to lances for a small upgrade. But again, it gives you another solid, fast-moving unit that can punch. They just, obviously a slight downgrade from the companions, which is fine. They're still really good. Then also Thracian or Thessalian light cavalry, and again, small units. So again, corresponding drop-off in combat ability there, but again, more sort of short-range harassing ability. So they can also even get lances, which is kind of neat for 2 points, but nothing else as far as special rules, unfortunately. But we could give them feigned flight for a unit, extra to give non-lance armed units feigned flight. So you do have that on tap as well, but for 2 points there. So a lot of interesting tactics that opens up. And then we have the artillery section. So again, basically like one of each of these, but still like no more than 10%, I think it was. So we got light artillery bolt throwers, fairly good price there. So 15 for the unit. Medium onagers and heavy ballistas with their points there. And again, you see some solid ranged options there. Commanders are really cool too. So it's this sort of generic, well-led army with 8 across the board, which is great. And then if the army includes the companion guard, it can be led by Alexander. So you do actually get one of the rare special characters here outside of a campaign book. But Alexander's leadership 9 and can add up to 6 attacks in hand-to-hand instead of 3 for 25 points. So you got all kinds of flexibility here. Would have been cool to maybe, again, see an option to field Philip like before Alexander. But this is, again, the more Alexandrian list. So it would have been nice to get more of an early Macedon list here at some point, but maybe we'll get that down the road someday from Warlord if we get like a new edition of Hail Caesar. But again, so that's the list, guys. It does everything. It can do everything. It's got some badass infantry, and again, it's almost like some of the other Greek lists, right? Lots of phalanx, lots of spears, hoplites and stuff to get through. But here we got the phalangites, so they're pikes. So you get all the benefits of that too. Again, pretty much as you can see going up and down the list here, with the exception of just a few units, you got special rules all over the place. And again, that's going to add to the sort of more than or sort of above the sort of generic unit of that type across the board. I don't always want to use the word elite because it is a keyword here. But yeah, there's just so many ways to get units that, again, punch above their weight, and that's really good. Of course, you have, again, awesome infantry. You have the mercenary option, just if you want things to be a little bit cheaper across the board in some ways. Again, an unupgraded phalangite unit is going to be the cheaper one there, but it's nice to be able to upgrade things like veterans and so on. Again, we got all kinds of nice light infantry options to round out the numbers and add that harassing missile fire and screens. We got the companion cavalry as like this sort of super elite punchy cavalry unit. Again, more so if it's being led by Alexander, of course, and if we go with the companion Hetairoi. But still, we want to go a little bit cheaper. You got this Thessalians and then the Thracian light cavalry of various sorts. And just to round things off, again, we haven't seen much of it yet, but just an army for that time period to be able to include artillery as well. So for some potentially nasty long-range firepower, again, this army isn't overwhelming on the long-range aspect, but again, it's the combined arms nature of that. You just need to whittle things down a little bit with that, and again, use your screens and stuff like that to put the enemy in bad positions so that you and make sure that they, the sides, your flanks of your pikes and stuff like that are not in danger, and then just kind of like the Macedonians did, hold them in place with that. Eventually, you should probably be able to grind down most other infantry units, and then make your cavalry do the hit them hard with the cavalry, whether it's a flank or rear charge, multi-charge, things like that. And that cavalry should win out against a lot of other types of units too. Probably not gonna win heads up against, like, let's say a cataphracts or something like that, but that wouldn't necessarily be a historical opponent either. So just lots of interesting things here, a lot of great what ifs. Of course, you can fight with this in Alexander's many battles across his conquests and all the different enemies he had. But it's great to pair this up against the big thing. What if Alexander had gone west, for example, and attacked Rome at that time? So that would have been, of course, a great one. So sure, all the history fans, leave something in the comments. Who would have won, Macedon under Alexander or Rome at the time? I'm sure we'll start a fun little debate there. So keep it civil in the comments, of course, guys. But this is just a fun list, and again, this is our army, our main army that we have for Hail Caesar. We're basically done building it. We're just slowly trying to get through painting it, and of course, we'll have features on that and battle reports down the road. But yeah, Macedon's great. Really, again, diverse army, good leadership, with the ability to actually bring in one of the rare special characters here. I guess I wish there were a little bit more of those in Hail Caesar, just to fight against some more interesting what-if battles. But again, the game also encourages house rules and stuff like that. So if you don't want to invest in the campaign books, there's any number of things you could do there. So hope you guys enjoyed. Again, leave us a like and some comments if you enjoyed the video, or have anything to add on, like onto, like, again, tactics wise, Macedonians or other potential enemies, and what to do with your lists. Interesting to hear from you guys how you organize your army. Again, you have plenty of flexibility here still when we looked at the requirements. And then, yeah, leave us some comments, subscribe if you haven't already, and then hope you guys have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.